Let's be clear. Joe Biden will be sworn in as President of the United States in 1 week because he won the election.
Let me be clear. There was no insurrection, and to call it an insurrection, in my opinion, is a bold-faced lie.
I've made the decision to oppose the House Democrats' slanted and unbalanced proposal for another commission to study the events of January the 6th.
At 2:07, a mob of Trump supporters breached the steps. I don't know who did a poll that is Trump supporters.
And the president's immediate action also deserves congressional action, which is why I think a fact-finding commission and a censure resolution would be prudent.
We want every legal vote to be counted, and we want every illegal vote to be...
I just think we have to be very clear. She's charging the other side as welcoming fraud.
We're debating a step that has never been taken in American history. Whether Congress should overrule the voters and overturn a presidential election.
I don't think anybody is questioning the legitimacy of the presidential election.
No,
Congress.
Didn't we just answer this the first time you asked it?
President Trump claims the election was stolen.
Last week's violent attack on the Capitol was undemocratic, un-American, and criminal. Violence is never a legitimate form of protest. Freedom of speech and assembly under the Constitution is rooted in nonviolence. Yet the violent mob that descended upon this body was neither peaceful nor democratic. It acted to disrupt Congress's constitutional responsibility. Yet for several hours last week, mob law tried to interfere with constitutional law. Some say the riots were caused by Antifa. There's absolutely no evidence of that. And conservatives should be the first to say so. Conservatives also know that the only thing that stops mob violence is to meet it with force rooted in justice and backed by moral courage.
Look, I've said a lot about that already.
And last week we saw mob violence met by courage, sacrifice, and heroism from the brave men and women who protect this institution every day. But for the bravery of the Capitol Police, the destruction and loss could have been much greater. We owe them a tremendous debt of gratitude. The loss of Officer Brian Sednick and Officer Howard Lindmagood is tragic and heartbreaking. We mourn their loss, remember their lives, and continue to pray for their families and loved ones. The officers of the Capitol Police deserve our eternal thanks. We will never forget the dangers they faced, the determination they showed, or the sacrifices they made. And make no mistake, those who are responsible for Wednesday's chaos will be brought to justice. The President bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding.
Would you be willing to testify about your conversation with Donald Trump on January 6th if you were asked by an outside commission?
Sure. Unfortunately, that is not where we are today. Truly, this past week was one of the most difficult for Congress and our nation. Of all the days here, last Wednesday was the worst day I've ever seen in Congress.
All right, breaking news. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy just announced he will not support a 9/11-style commission to study the Capitol insurrection or investigate it. He wrote, quote, "Given the political misdirections that have marred this process, given the now duplicative and potentially counterproductive nature of this effort, and given the Speaker's short-sighted scope that does not examine interrelated forms of political violence in America, I cannot support this legislation."
Our country is deeply hurt. So where do we go from here? After all the violence and chaos of the last week, is it important to remember that we're still here to deliver a better future for all Americans. It does not matter if you are liberal, moderate, or conservative. All of us must resist the temptation of further polarization.
I've made the decision to oppose the House Democrats' slanted and unbalanced proposal for another commission to study the events of January the 6th.
Instead, we must unite once again as Americans. I understand for some, this call for unity may ring hollow.
I've made the decision to oppose the House Democrats' slanted and unbalanced proposal for another commission to study the events of January the 6th.
History shows unity is not an option, it's a necessity.
I've made the decision to oppose.
It is as necessary today as it was at the start of our country.
I've made the decision to oppose.
Let's be clear. Joe Biden will be sworn in as President of the United States in 1 week because he won the election.
President Trump claims the election was stolen.
Donald Trump tried to overturn the results in Congress, and you support that effort.
Well, now you're saying something that's not true.
I've served 36 years in the Senate. This will be the most important vote I've ever cast. I've made the decision to oppose the House for another commission to study the events of January the 6th. The assertions range from specific local allegations to constitutional arguments to sweeping conspiracy theories. I supported the president's right to use the legal system. Dozens of lawsuits received hearings in courtrooms all across our country. But over and over, the courts rejected these claims, including all-star judges whom the president himself has nominated. Every election, we know, features some illegality and irregularity, and of course, that's unacceptable. I support strong state-led voting reforms. Last year's bizarre pandemic procedures must not become the new norm.
Historic day.
The losing candidate didn't organize a rally and say, stop the steal, we can overturn the certification of the Electoral College on January 6th.
I mean, do you want to talk to Trump, or you want to ask me the question? Because I'm here right now, and I'm showing where your question doesn't hold merit.
You supported the Texas lawsuit, too. Do you regret supporting that lawsuit that would have been validated?
No, I don't.
Did you not support Donald Trump's effort to overturn the election in Congress?
Didn't we just answer this the first time you asked it?
The fact of the matter is, even calling it an insurrection, it wasn't. You know, I condemn the breach, I condemn the violence, but to say there were thousands of armed insurrectionists breaching the Capitol, intent on overthrowing the government, is just simply false narrative. By and large, it was peaceful protests.
Just saw with your own eyes again. North Carolina's Richard Burr said today that he's against a commission.
Do you think it's a conflict of interest for members to be voting on a commission that they might have to potentially be witnesses for and provide information on?
No, because who knows what they're going to do on the commission. So, no, I don't think so.
Absolutely certain that none of your members were in any communication with any of the people who stormed Capitol Hill?
Thank you for the question.
The last time the Senate convened, we had just reclaimed the Capitol from violent criminals who tried to stop Congress from doing our duty. The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people. And they tried to use fear and violence to stop a specific proceeding of the first branch of the federal government, which they did not like. 100% of my focus is on stopping this new administration. Our work for the American people will continue as it has for more than 230 years. 100% of my focus is on stopping this new administration. And a presidential candidate who said he'd represent everyone. 100% of my focus is on stopping this new administration. We are to pursue bipartisan agreement everywhere we can and check and balance one another respectfully where we must. And through all of this, we must always keep in mind that we're all Americans. We all love this country, and we're all in this together.
I don't believe he provoked if you listen to what he said at the rally. I thought the president had some responsibility.
I've made the decision to oppose the House Democrats' slanted and unbalanced proposal for another commission to study the events of January the 6th.